Once upon a time, Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie were Hollywood's golden couple. From red carpet glitz to humanitarian ventures, they looked like they had it all wrapped up in a neat, star-studded package. But as with many fairy tales, this one had a twist. And ironically, the unraveling began with a movie. Not just any movie, though. A moody, dialogue-light drama titled By the Sea, written, directed, and starred in by Jolie herself. What was supposed to be a shared artistic venture between husband and wife ended up opening emotional floodgates neither of them could plug. If ever there was a case of art imitating life, this was it. With all the emotional baggage, passive aggression, and suppressed pain spilling onto the set and bleeding into their real-life marriage. A story too close for comfort. By the Sea tells the story of Vanessa and Roland, a couple who arrive at a quiet French resort to save what's left of their crumbling marriage. She's grieving, withdrawn, and distant. He's detached, frustrated, and drowning his feelings in alcohol. Now rewind to Brad and Angelina in 2015. Married only a year, together for 10, juggling careers, 6 kids, and emotional wounds that were beginning to show more and more with every public appearance. Filming scenes that mirrored their own personal struggles wasn't cathartic. It was like dancing barefoot on broken glass. Sure, they were playing roles, but those roles felt like barely disguised versions of themselves, as if someone had hit record on a private therapy session and called it cinema. Jolie admitted later that the film was a way to communicate something between them. In hindsight, it might have been a final cry for help, but it landed like a brick in a marriage already held together by a fraying rope. Emotional powder keg, midlife crisis meets hormonal havoc. Strip away the celebrity gloss, and this is a story many couples face behind closed doors. He hits a midlife crossroads. She battles a body that feels like it's betraying her. For Brad, the signs were textbook. Restlessness? Check. Mood swings? Definitely. A yearning for something new, unnameable, but urgent? You bet. These aren't just cliches from self-help books. They're real, physiological shifts that often manifest as sudden career pivots or inexplicable irritability. On Angelina's end, things weren't any smoother. Following a double mastectomy in 2013 and a preventive hysterectomy a couple years later, her body and emotions were in full revolt. Her decisions were rooted in medical caution. She carried a gene that significantly increased her cancer risk. But the emotional weight was immense, not just for her, but for their relationship. While Jolie saw her surgeries as survival, Brad reportedly struggled. Not because he didn't support her, but because he didn't fully understand the emotional fallout. Raised in conservative Southern Baptist culture, he reportedly viewed her choices through a lens of fear and confusion, not malice. He wasn't trying to control her, but he couldn't reconcile what it meant to live with someone fighting so many invisible battles. You don't need tabloids to imagine how that tension might explode. 2 strong personalities, both hurting, no one blinking first. It's a powder keg with a short fuse. Fiction crossed the line into reality. On set, they weren't just pretending, they were revisiting old wounds. Every scene seemed to poke at something raw. In the movie, Vanessa mourns miscarriages and infertility. In real life, Jolie had chosen to close the door on more biological children, a decision Brad reportedly wasn't consulted on. That alone would stir a hornet's nest in any home. And let's not forget the ghosts of relationships past. Rumors swirled that Jolie occasionally weaponized Brad's history with Jennifer Aniston during fights. Throw in guilt, unresolved anger, and the occasional drinking episode, and you've got a marriage slipping from its moorings. Even those close to the couple saw By the Sea not as therapy, but as a dissection. An exercise in dragging every buried issue to the surface and dissecting it frame by frame. A perfect storm, not a singular event. To say the movie caused their divorce is like blaming a flat tire for a wrecked car. It wasn't the whole reason, but it certainly sped things up. The emotional state they were both in was already fragile. Making a movie that mirrored their fears and failures didn't help. If anything, it served as a spotlight on problems they could no longer ignore. Not long after filming wrapped, things started to spiral. Fights grew more frequent, tension thickened. Then came the infamous plane incident in 2016, which sealed the coffin. Jolie filed for divorce just days later, citing irreconcilable differences. After a decade together, 2 years of marriage, and 6 children, the curtain closed. The fallout: silence, healing, and regret. In the years since, Jolie pulled back from public life. She took on fewer roles, focused on her children, and appeared emotionally drained in interviews. Once the symbol of edgy glamour, she now often looks like she's carrying the weight of decisions that never got easier with time. By 2024, a more reflective Jolie admitted she may have acted in haste. But you don't get a do-over on matters like these. Even if the storm passes, the damage remains. And Brad, he weathered his own reckoning. Sobriety, therapy, quietly rebuilding his life. Rumors still linger about him and Jennifer Aniston. Depending on who you ask, she's either still hung up on him or just a friend offering a shoulder. What's certain is this: their divorce left marks on everyone involved. When art isn't therapy, most actors say they draw from their own lives to fuel their characters. But there's a line between drawing inspiration and digging into open wounds. For Brad and Angelina, By the Sea wasn't just a creative project. It was a mirror, and the reflection wasn't pretty. It's reminiscent of what happened with Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise in Eyes Wide Shut. That movie also pulled real-life emotions into fictional scenes, and the couple didn't survive it either. Maybe some stories are too personal to perform. Maybe some roles aren't meant to be played with your spouse. Or maybe it just speeds up what's already unraveling. Closing scene. At the end of By the Sea, the couple stays together. They find a shaky peace, though it's clear the scars remain. Real life wasn't as tidy. What started as a love story filled with adventure, red carpets, and a brood of children scattered across the globe ended with courtrooms and custody battles. It's tempting to romanticize it, to wish they'd made it work. But real life isn't a screenplay. There's no rewrite button when the final draft breaks your heart. Still, somewhere in an alternate universe, maybe Brad and Angelina did make it. Maybe By the Sea was just a movie, not a prophecy. And maybe, just maybe, love doesn't always need to survive to mean something.